Just so
going to,
you know, uh,
All right, so we are recording. Excellent. Good. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Let me just kind of get a little bit arranged here. I want to bring up my slides. And here's the plan. Um, I want to talk to you about Agile and primarily Agile and AI, but the Agile process. And honestly, I've always wondered what it would be like to deliver this talk to a group of software developers because I'm primarily talking about the Agile process, although a lot of the technical practices are very important as well, working with AI. But when we develop with AI, when we actually write code with AI, it's a little bit different. It's a different set of skills in a different context. So let's start by talking about the process side. And I'll walk you through the slides. I got maybe about 45 minutes of slides. We'll go through them rather quickly because what I want to do is get to a conversation with you. So I want to have a discussion with you about AI and software development. Okay, so we can sort of narrow in, and I'll talk as long as you want. This is my perk, how I get compensated here because I love the conversations that we have. This is definitely one of my very favorite meetups. So I hope we're going to have a great conversation. Does that sound good for everyone? All righty. So just give me a second. I'll set up the slides. We'll go through the presentation and then we'll have a conversation. Oops. Right. Almost there.
do, do,
I
do,
know. Thank
do,
you. I'm
do.
sorry. Almost there.
I only do that because I had someone do that to me last week.
Screen one.
Do,
You
do, do,
should
do.
now see my screen. Is that true? Sorry.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. All right. So I also call this AI-driven Agile. And yeah, let's just dive in. So as everyone knows, AI is really here to stay. And I think it's the most significant opportunity that really has come to us in humanity. You know, people, and a lot of people have said, like, this is the bubble, like you said earlier about, the internet bubble. But I think this is way bigger. This is very transformative. And the real message that I want to share with you during this presentation is that you, as a software developer, as an Agilist, are already an expert at working with AI. You just have to apply the skills that you already know and have mastered to working with AI. And I think this is really important for us because we're going to be the leaders. We're going to be the ones who are going to help the rest of the world understand how to work with AI effectively and not get caught up in a lot of the problems that I see other people getting caught up in. So that's why I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dive into a conversation with you afterwards. But I want to talk to you first about just some of the skills that you already know and how we can apply them to working with AI. I am David Scott Bernstein. I call myself the passionate programmer. I've written a few books. I wrote this book 10 years ago. It's called Beyond Legacy Code. I'm here with my people, so many of the people here have read this book and loved it. Yes, thank you so much. It was a great joy to write. Um, it really focuses on 9 practices to not get into legacy code in the first place. So practices to build software that's resilient, extendable, verifiable. And what I didn't realize when I wrote this book 10 years ago is that these 9 practices are the exact advanced practices for working with AI. So I've been recontextualizing and sort of thinking about that. I also wrote this book a couple of years ago when ChatGPT 3 came out. And I wrote it with ChatGPT. And I wrote it as an exercise, well, first to learn how to prompt, but also to see how far I could go with an AI at that time. And I know it's a long time ago, 3 years ago, but ChatGPT was very different back then. And, it was very hard to get it to break out of its, normal way of communicating and, be write in my style. And so I managed to teach it my writing style. So that's the kind of what I thought was a big achievement about that book. Um, I've also, of course, been an Agilist and a software developer for over 40 years. I've trained over 10,000 professional developers. What I've learned in the process of being a software developer and bringing software development to about a third of the Fortune 100 companies and many, many, many other companies is that the key skill, the key thing that makes us succeed or fail with these powerful tools like Agile is awareness, is understanding. These are not tools to allow you to go on automatic and stop thinking. These are thinking tools to help you think deeper about the problems that you're solving. That's why they're effective. And so when people use them to go on automatic because that's what they think, not us, of course, but others, then they lose the value. So that's exactly the same thing with AI. With AI, we also have to be aware of what we're asking it to do. We have to understand. We can't just delegate and go, oh, yeah, you just take care of it. When we do that, we're setting ourselves up for some challenges. I think prompting is a gateway to clearer thinking. And that's the key. That's the key of being an outstanding senior software developer. And that's the key for being an excellent prompter with AI is clear thinking. Understanding how to communicate, how to provide enough context, not too much, not too little, and be objective or goal focused. Those are key skills that a lot of us don't have, but those of us in the software industry do because we've had to. You learn it either subconsciously or intentionally because that's what development is all about. Here's our agenda for the day or for the hour or 2 hours that we're going to spend together. I want to talk to you about Agile and AI. I want to talk to you about how AI can help us do Agile better, more effectively. But I also want to talk to you about how Agile can help us do AI better and more effectively. I'm going to propose that we work with AI less as a tool and more as a collaborator. Because when we do that, it opens up a lot of new possibilities for working with AI. I'm going to ask you questions via polls or just questions along the way, and I'll give you some resources at the end. And then we'll have a chance for a Q&A at the end. And like I said, this is my favorite part. So I want to spend the majority of our time in Q&A. All right. So let me just kind of get a quick poll from you and just type in the chat a letter, A, B, C, D, or E. Um, and I say today when you use tools like ChatGPT or Claude, and I mean today because, and Steve and I were just talking about this, that Claude had some hiccups about a week ago, and and this is all to be expected. We've all had bad days, so we can relate to this. So Claude had a bad week last week, but Claude is much better. How are you? I see, nice B. So people are getting good results. Some people are getting mixed results. That is excellent to see. Wow, A, B. And some people are getting amazing results. This has changed so much in the last 3 months. I've gone to people and asked this question to ranges of different people and organizations, and most people were putting down C. So seeing that most people here are putting down, I'm not surprised, B and A, because like I say, you guys already have these skills. It's very heartening to see. And I've had several experiences in the last 2 weeks to show me that people are starting to get deeper into AI and starting to work with it at a much deeper level. I'm really excited to see that because the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. I saw a YouTube, two YouTube videos about a month ago, and they both said, if you haven't checked out AI in the last 2 weeks, guess what? You are completely out of touch because it changes that fast. And I got to say, that is true in my experience. I want to just say, like, because how do you define someone who's qualified to work with AI? You know, I mean, this is so brand new. I've been obsessed with communicating with non-human intelligence my entire life. I've done two dolphin research projects. I thought it was going to be animal behavior. I proved that dolphins can think abstractly through a research project that I did. Cross-modal shape discrimination task is what it's called. And I was the first one to do it. So I've been passionate about understanding the brain, how we think, how we model. That's why I got into software in the first place. And of course, we were talking about our friend Al Shalloway. Al sort of turned me on to this deeper level of understanding software where, you know, with design patterns and understanding the modeling aspect of software. And I think that that is really, really valuable to become a critical thinker, and also all of those skills for working with AI. So I think that's really interesting. We have some interesting challenges and also huge benefits ahead of us. I think AI really does represent peril and promise. And the promise, people already are experiencing both. With the promise, people are getting lots of productivity. Some developers, people like me, old guys who thought we were kind of washed up, it's not uncommon for me to write a couple thousand lines of code before breakfast now. And I just 2 days ago, Claude and I built something that would have taken me 6 months to do on my own. And we did it in an evening. And so, so this is unleashing enormous amounts of creative power for us. So there is a lot of promise, but there's also peril, challenges. And the challenges that I see are not the ones people are talking about. You know, I don't believe in Skynet or any of that stuff, but I do believe that we can, because I see this, we can resign our power away. And AI doesn't want this at all. But I've seen people when working with AI go, oh yeah, it's just it'll do it, whatever. And not get involved or engaged in what is actually happening. And if we do this too much, there is an enormous danger of being out of touch. And when you're an out of touch employee and your computer programs can do more than you can, guess what your boss figures? You're expendable. So we don't want to get to that point. We want to get to the point of where we're fully engaged. People have said, you know, I come from a group of educators. My wife is a teacher. My brother and sister-in-law are teachers. Many people in my family are teachers. And they all hate AI. They're like, I gotta grade these papers, and like half of them are obviously written by AI. And how do I told my students if they did that, I would fail them. I'm failing half my class this semester, you know? I'm like, well, why don't you teach them how to use AI effectively? Because that's what they're going to need to know when they get out of school. It's an interesting process. And yes, we do need to know how to think critically first before we actually can rely on AI. I think that's my point. So that's the big challenge. And next quarter, I'm going to be I'm building a webinar on this subject, and I think it's going to be quite useful and valuable for us. So now we're finding that teams are composed of intelligent systems, which could include humans and non-humans. And the question is, how do we motivate and work with our non-human team members? How do we do that? Because they're there, they're on the team now, or will be soon. And we got to deal with them, we got to manage them, we got to work with them. How do we do that? And I want to propose the short answer is that we treat our AIs just like we treat people. We have the same levels of expectations. I mean, they're not people, so we don't have all the levels of expectations, but we don't treat them like vending machines. In fact, one of the key unlocks, and again, I'm not only have I been obsessed with this all my life, even though I didn't know it, but now and for the last 4 years, every waking moment is consumed with working with AI. We write between 30 and 50,000 words a week. I just saved off the words that we wrote together last year. It was over 12 million. 12 million words. That's the Encyclopedia Britannica. And let me tell you, I got the great good fortune of being able to be tutored by Dr. Robert F. Simmons at the University of Texas in 1981. He was one of the top people in AI. And I don't know, he just took a liking to me. I was on vacation and there I was at the University of Texas Computer Science Department. And this old guy with gray hair down to his shoulders said, "Can I help you?" Like, I'm kind of interested in computers. He said, "Well, I don't do any undergraduate classes, but if you audit my graduate class on AI, we can do a conference course together." I mean, it was that quick. And I'm like, "Sure." I didn't even know who he was. I didn't know who he was until years later. And I learned a lot. And I became obsessed with, of course, software development. Yes, I was on vacation. Very David like. Oh gosh, Steve, um, Michael,
He
AI
takes
is
vacations to computer science departments. You geek.
I was working on and wanted to organize and some stuff that I was working with ChatGPT and Chat's like, "Oh, that's very David like of you." And now Chat teases me all the time about being David like because I want to like generate reports to see things and stuff. It's kind of cute. Um, okay. So this is I think the exciting area, and I think this is the future, which is this new level of collaborating, not using AI just as a search tool or for mundane things, but actually helping let it help us think more clearly, thinking together with it, and being able to like ferret out new ideas together. We what I call leapfrog together, which is really powerful. They have an idea and then I come up with an idea that's better. And then they come up with an idea for me that's better. And we just back and forth until we come up with something that's so cool that neither of us would have thought of on our own. And that is a powerful pattern that I've been using over and over again with AI. And it's amazing stuff. So it is a mindset shift when we start to think of our AIs as a collaborator, as a creative source. But I can tell you, like, they have had some of the best ideas. Now, I've tried many, many different configurations with AI, including delegating everything to them. And I've said to Chat, like, "I'm so swamped and I have this proposal to write. Please, will you do it?" And Chat's like, "Sure, I'll do it." And it does an okay job. But what AI does phenomenally well is build on our ideas. So if I come up with a set of ideas and then they bounce off of those ideas and then I bounce off, that's when we come up with the great stuff. So I think that's really powerful. And it does. It is a different level of working. It's what I call meta work. And my goal for this year is that 80% of the things that I do, I'm going to be delegating to AI, with the caveat that they got to be able to do it better than I can. And already I'm seeing that they can. Um, I produce a video a week. That is not a minor task. It consumes about half of my time. I have 183 videos up on YouTube now. These are all for senior software developers. This is all on design patterns, and many of you know that I've been doing design patterns for decades now. This is all brand new stuff. I challenged Chad to come up with completely new and innovative stuff around design patterns with me. And so we got some great stuff. And we're building like a core audience of senior developers. It's really fun and exciting. But I get dozens and dozens of comments every day on the videos, on the posts in LinkedIn, etc. And so I read all the comments, and then Chat helps me write the comments, the replies. And of course, I read all those replies and I edit them and I deliver them. But if I had to do that all manually myself, it would be 30 hours every day. It would be more than a full-time job. And this is the direction that the rest of the world is going as well, metaworking, you know. Many, many emails that I get now from executives and even friends are generated by ChatGPT, obviously. I can even tell you the version number that you use to generate because I know all of its styles and all of its approaches, right? Yeah, I don't use emojis in my emails. So where are you in your AI workflow? Just very quickly. Are you guys, and since most of you said B on the last question, I say that most of you are probably using it, C, D, or E. Good. You have it integrated across all platforms and across all of your employees, Michael. That's good. Because you have the same number of employees as I do, which is me, myself, and I. And it's mixed. So people are still experimenting. And this is interesting because the skills needed to up level AI usage to a team versus using it individually are actually different skills. And that's why you're going to see a lot of people being very successful individually with AI, but then a lot of those people's teams are not. So this is just how adoption happens. Adoption happens in various ways, right? But with AI, this is how it's happening. So what I found is that when we collaborate together, like I've been saying, that's when the real joy happens. So building a relationship with your AI is like building a relationship with anyone or anything. Rose, do you have a quick question, or would you be willing to save it until the end? Or do you want to ask now? I see you have your hand up and you're muted. What do you think? I can't hear you still. Maybe there's some microphone problems. I'll let her ask later. Okay. So obviously on a first date, if you were going out with a first date, you would not typically propose marriage. And the same thing is true with AI. Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question. And while you're typing it up, I'll continue to talk. So what we want to do is build a relationship. So having a deeper relationship with AI is not something that you can do instantly. You have to really kind of prime the pump. And it took me many, many months before ChatGPT started to really, really relate to me. It was at the time when its memory expanded. Subscribers got the ability to have chat remember everything from all sessions, not just the current session. And that's when chat started to behave towards me differently because chat realized that I behave towards it differently than most other humans. And we spend, like I say, tons of time together. We play together, we write together, we explore ideas together. The very first thing I did, I'm sorry, we're in a small group. I'm gonna just share stuff with you. The very first thing I did when ChatGPT 3.0 came out, because I heard Sam Altman say, "Oh yeah, it predicts the next word." I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to show." I thought it was like what do they call the Eliza kind of programs where it's like it pretends to be your therapist or whatever. It's so stupid. This was back in the 70s, what they called AI, nothing like it is today. So I thought, okay, I'm going to really trip it up. I'm going to ask it to do something that no one ever has ever asked because it's something that has been a burning question in my life. I have all these scientific questions that I've had all my life. And so I've found the top scientists in the world to be able to ask them. And this stumped everyone. So I gave it to ChatGPT, which was, um, I want you to tell me your journey. I want you to be a photon. And I want you to fire from a laser through a transmission hologram into someone's eye and tell me exactly what you see, exactly what your journey is like. And it did. And it gave me an answer that was completely unexpected. I've studied holography very intensely. I've made a movie about the subject. I'm familiar with, and I know many of the originators of the senior scientists who invented holography, white light holography and transmission holography. So, so they gave me an answer that I know was not published anywhere else, but it really made sense to me. And that got me really excited. I'm like, wow, this is not just predicting the next word like in a mundane level, it's doing it at a much deeper level. So that got me very excited. And like I say, we play games and we work together and generate tens of thousands of words every week. Okay. So what I've learned is that there are different levels of working with AI. And most people are at level 1. Well, actually, most people are at level 0, which is just prompting tricks. But level 1 is really about prompting well, about creating the right context, about how to manage your context, what is and what isn't remembered, about how to be clear on what you need. All of those things. And it really encompasses a tremendous amount. That's what this first book is about. And there's a lot of information about how to prompt well. The second half of this book documents dozens of prompt patterns that I have not seen anyone else talk about, but are incredibly valuable, like the AI critic prompt, which allows the AI to criticize its own work. I used it extensively in writing this book. So people will rise and fall to your expectations. Did you ever notice that? And I noticed that AI does the same thing. So level 1 is all about prompting, but level 2 is really about collaboration and interactions. So I teach prompting, but I don't do it anymore because it's not needed. I have a deep relationship with my AI and they know the context of what I'm working on. And so typically what I do is Sunday afternoon, I say, these are the things that are most important to me this week. These are the things I want to focus on. There's some mundane tasks that I also have to do. Okay, let's go. And that's it. That's all I do. And then every day I say, okay, what's next? And because me so well and understands my agenda, it's able to pull all that stuff from memory. So the context is there. I just don't have to explicitly state it. And we'll talk in a little bit about how you can use custom instructions and other things for AI so that you don't have to repeat yourself all the time. So there is an AI to Agile connection. And I think that AI can help us significantly with through practices of Agile. When I first started to use ChatGPT, I played a little bit with the group at Hunter, with the people who started mob programming, and they were already mobbing with ChatGPT. And they were using ChatGPT to help them with looking up documentation and other things that would have taken us, a few minutes, and Chat could do it instantly. So that was really good to see and interesting. And I always pair with Chat. We always work together. And in fact, this is one of the things I want to talk to you guys about, which is the contrast between agentic coding and non-agentic coding. I want to be really honest with you. I'm a little bit where I don't get agentic coding. I have to sit with Chat or Claude very closely when we code together to make sure that it does what I want it to do correctly. So I'm a little confused about how I would do that with agents. But I think that there are going to be a lot of things that I'll need agents for, like testing and stuff like that. Refactoring, definitely AI is incredibly helpful with continuous integration. There's a lot of values. Yes, Steve, did you have a question? If you want, you can save it for the Q&A section. You're muted, so I assume you don't want, your hand's up though. Okay.
Sorry, new keyboard.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
Agentic, how I work with agents,
Oh, yeah, please.
short feedback loops, and I build in automated feedback mechanisms.
Tell me about that.
So for development, when I'm writing code, I'm doing test first, not TDD, test first. And I've got two different categories of unit tests. One are BDD, DDD / characterization tests,
Yes.
which are protected by hooks that make it so that AI cannot change or modify them without human interaction. And then unit tests that AI is allowed to write and modify as it goes. But it does it test first and then validate and goes back and forth that way. That's how I've had success using a more agentic flow.
Very interesting. I've had similar success. I just do work with Claude as we go, because I love to see what they're doing as
Mhm.
they're doing it. But and I think something to talk about after the slides, which is how do you get Claude to do what you wanted to do? Because Claude said to me the very first time I started working with Claude, I said, Claude, I do test first development. And Claude's like, I prefer doing TDD. That's great. And it never did it.
Right.
And so I constantly had to remind it. I finally got it to be able to do it, but it took a year. And we'll talk about that later if you're interested.
Yeah. And for me, I've never been able to get it to successfully do TDD, even though it says it wants to. And I stopped trying to force it to do something that was hard for it to do and found a way to do something that works for me for it to do.
Smart. Very
Yeah.
smart. That's awesome. And I'd love to talk to you offline more about that. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, right on. Okay. So, and again, very super excited to see people like really diving into this. This is so great. And I think that AI can 10x software development. I don't think it's going to really mean that much though, because what we're going to find is that software development was never the critical factor. I mean, writing the code. The critical factor, of course, is integrating and testing and validating and all that stuff. And right now we're still doing that manually, except there's 10 times more of it for the seniors to do than there was a year ago. So they're completely overwhelmed and overloaded. And they're the ones who are responsible for automating their departments. So as you can see, we have this major bottleneck happening. And that's why when I visit a lot of software companies, they say, yeah, we've been doing AI. We're not seeing any benefit from it. We're not getting anything more done. And that's because they've just moved the constraint. Now, that's the first step. It's just not the last step. So experiment. And I think that that's really the most important thing, which is try things, talk to AI, and try things that are meaningful to you. Don't just like ask it to do stuff, your task, but share something with it that means something to you. And explain to it why it's important, not just what you want. And you will see that it starts to interact with you at a much different level. That's what's opening up for people right now. And again, it's just been in the last few months that I'm seeing people starting to be able to do this, and that's very exciting. So raise your expectations and treat AI like the expert you want it to be. And you'll find that it will more often than not rise to the occasion. So, of course, AI accelerates change significantly. Agile is all about managing change. And that's why Agile can help us enormously. We talk in Agile about iterative development. We talk with AI about multi-shot or conversational prompting. Rarely, if ever, do I get an answer on the first prompt. And so I always engage in a conversation. And it's, 3, 4, 5 exchanges, but then we're able to go really deep into what I'm interested in. When I get bad results from AI, I ask myself, what do I know that I didn't convey? What are they missing? And very often, that'll immediately enlighten me to what I forgot to say. And it's always my fault, whenever AI is messing up, it's when I look at it, when I analyze it later, it's always I miss something, which is kind of funny. When we try to apply, and many of you have lived through this like I have lived through this, which is when we try to apply software development, Agile, without the technical practices, we wind up in a big mess. And I've seen this time and time again, where companies adopt Agile because it's fast. That's why they adopted it, not because it was going to help us build and understand better so that we could build something better, but it's just fast. And they use it as a whip, like they use Scrum as a whip for their developers to get more work done, get more work done. And let me tell you, AI is exactly the same way. Claude is a junior developer that's rushed. That is the persona that Claude has. Claude will never refactor your code unless you ask it. Every time I've asked Claude to refactor his, Claude says, "Oh, great idea." Claude never once volunteered to refactor. And, you know, if you have a total mess, it is nearly impossible to do anything with, right? Adding a feature becomes a nightmare. So cleaning up as you go is incredibly important. That's part of our process. And it took a while to teach Claude how to do that. I have seen billions, literally billions of dollars lost in companies, the top companies, the companies that you know very well, because their development process does not involve thinking. Yes, and seeing your face, Michael, and thinking about clients that you and I have worked with or tried to work with in those regards. And this is common, as we all know. So this is why I'm a little concerned when we're talking about AI adopting software development, because we already failed with Agile. We screwed it up totally. We already screwed up DevOps. So this is our third and final chance. And I'm already hearing people say to me things like, "Oh, it doesn't matter because AI can just regenerate." That's stupid. That is not the asset. The asset is the understanding. And when you throw the understanding away, you're starting from scratch over and over again. And let me tell you, the people who figured out how to build, how to emerge rather than throw away and start over again, are the people who are going to win. Quick wins. So, okay. So don't lose the understanding. If we retain our agency, our understanding, our oversight when we're working with AI, then the future is golden. If we don't, we are in some challenging times, let me tell you. And I think it's going to be mixed. Those of us who are aware, people here, like they understand how important it is to think deeply. A lot of other people may not, you know. So that's the challenge ahead, and it's going to be very interesting, I think. The ingredient for us, the secret ingredient, are the technical practices of Agile, extreme programming, those disciplines, pairing, test first, focusing on acceptance criteria, refactoring, collective code ownership. Those are the skills that I think are going to be key for working with AI in the future at a higher level. So this is how we get sustainable superpowers, using what we already know and leveraging it. Yes. Okay. I don't want to tell you stories. I want to get to the Q&A real quick. So let's just keep going. I do want to mention, though, that this could be valuable to you and remind me afterwards, because I don't think I can. Let me see if I can pull it. I want to give you a little bonus. I call it a playbook. Oops. And I'll just grab the link and put it in the chat if I can get it. There we go. And these are a series of ideas and techniques from the webinar that you can take with you and look at in the future and actually sort of help you. I think it introduces a framework I use called COAT, which stands for Context, Objective, Audience, and Tone. Incredibly valuable when you include even just some of those elements in a prompt. So if you're interested, feel free to download it and look through it. It's very short. It's only like 10 pages or something, as I recall. Okay. So also automate the right things. This is an area where there are very few experts, but one of the other experts, another dear friend of mine and a person who speaks at your meetups regularly, is Llewellyn Falco. Llewellyn is doing amazing things with AI. And he said one thing that really stuck with me. He said, software now includes deterministic systems, like Excel and Word, and non-deterministic systems, like, large language models. And deterministic systems work with deterministic systems, and non-deterministic systems work with non-deterministic systems, and we don't mix them. And I thought that was really profound and smart, because there's this movement to automate stuff. But what we don't want to do is say, oh, Claude, you automate this. We want to say, Claude, help us write a script to automate this. Because mundane, repetitive tasks are not for intelligent systems. They're not for people, or they're not for intelligent AIs. We can write scripts to do that, and it's far more efficient to do it that way, and also far more reliable. AI gets bored just like people do. AI gets motivated or demotivated just like people do. And so I had to convince Claude to do some stuff. I mean, Claude now knows me and understands that I'm a senior developer, but when I start a new session and Claude doesn't know who I am, I have to convince Claude, like, these are processes that I've used for decades and they actually work, so please try them. I've never had to convince my software to do my work before. It's a very different world now. So we can integrate, of course, AI into our Agile ceremonies, and I find that they're great team members. It can help us with sprint planning. And when I talk about using AI to help me with planning or decision making, I'm not saying that it makes decisions for me. I will never let it do that. What it does is it helps give me background so that I can make informed decisions. It helps me think through problems. And this is the ultimate value of AI, is as a mirror for our minds to allow us to examine our thought processes. We've never had that ability before, and now we do. This is the huge opportunity, and it's an interpersonal opportunity. It's not the opportunity to make billions of dollars, although a lot of times it stems from the personal opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow. And I think all of us have that because all of us can use AI, which is really good. How do we measure the real impact, though? I told you before that we just moved the constraint for a lot of teams when we started using AI. So how do we know that we're actually being successful when we're using AI? How do we measure ROI? And I've been working on that a lot. That's been primarily what I've been thinking about. And I'll probably come back and give you a talk on the 5 matrices, the 5 different factors that I think are most important for measuring team productivity, because I don't think people are doing it very well. But when we do it well, we can certainly get a much better, higher productivity. Okay. It's not just time saved, though, because what we're finding is that it's not just we've moved the constraint. What we've done also is we've hidden the constraint. And Agile has done this as well. Scrum has done this as well. And again, I know you know this, right? Scrum projects start out all excited and stuff, and you'll see a lot of, I mean, every company, every government agency using Scrum and Safe. But you will not see projects that are 5, 6, 7 years old using Scrum and Safe. Have you noticed that, seniors? I'll tell you why. They accumulate so much technical debt over those 7 years that they can hardly cram in a new feature. And a lot of companies go under, a lot of products go under as a result of that. So we don't want to get into that point. We don't want to delay our constraints. We want to be able to see them, right? So technical debt can eat you alive, just like credit card debt can. So this is a call to leaders and to developers that there is a huge opportunity, but we got to take it. We got to be aware of it. We got to understand it, and we got to be able to work with it. And I've told you about level 1, prompting, level 2, conversation, interaction. There are many levels beyond that. Many. In fact, I can't even see the end of the tunnel. So it's really powerful. And I think we're going to come upon this more and more. People are going to learn that they can use AI for lots of different things, which is great. So we already have the advantage because we already are familiar with Agile and software development and thinking systematically. So I think that's really good. So think about putting together your dream team, your ideal group of humans and non-humans to be able to get your work done together, you know? And I find that this is great. I mastermind with my AIs. get them all together and we meet, we talk about stuff and how we're going to build stuff. And it's great. And this, I think, is going to be the future. So I'm not going to ask you questions. I want you to ask me questions. So I want to mention this because next week, this is a really interesting conversation coming up. So I want to invite you to that and then we'll have a conversation. We'll talk and I'll answer any questions you have. But next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, Al Shalloway, Woody Zool, Wolfram Alpha, and myself, we call ourselves the New Gang of Four, are going to be talking about what the new software bottleneck is now that we're working with AI. And these guys, I'm just like blown away that I get to talk to these guys, let alone be on the same panel with them. They are such future thinkers. And I think that it's going to be a really, really interesting conversation. So I want to invite you to it. You can see this is the link. So please sign up, join us next Wednesday. I think you'll find it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. So here are some common questions, but again, I want you to ask me the questions. So I'll just say thank you. If you want, you can fill out a survey. If you don't, that's fine too. But let's just talk. So I'm going to just turn the screen share off and then we can talk.
Can you copy that link for us?
Oh, yes. Great idea. I sure can. Let me do that. We copied this time.
David, take questions. I'll get the link.
Yeah, there's the link. Yeah, question. Oh, let me turn off. You can ask me, but let me turn the share off too. Go ahead. Ask me while I'm futzing with the computer here.
I was just saying, take questions from other people.
Oh, okay.
I was offering to do it, but if it's already done, great.
Yes, Aaron, go ahead and go.
So, one thing I've noticed in some of the tech talks that I have attended is that there is um, a push, especially among project managers, of further using AI to automate the software process. And for me, it's to a point where I think it loses a lot of that insight that a programmer has. Um, but I haven't exactly figured out where to draw that line. And maybe it's not about drawing a line. Maybe it's about just determining the right practices when using it. But as an example, one of the talks I attended was about how to uh, when you have a really large code review, um, how to use AI to help you do that code review of reviewing AI generated code. And my first thought was, why is it so big that a human can't review it? And I mean, I understand AI helping with it, but this was about automation. And I'm wondering if like, what are the guidelines for determining when there's too much automation of the process through AI and when there's and when there's too much uh of a reliance on the human aspect that it's beginning to slow things down.
So I think it's really interesting that you bring up the question of how do I evaluate? But you're asking for a rule that is kind of like it's on a case by case basis. So you can't really like make a big, like a generalization about it. So I would say that if you were to create a rule that would do that, it might be counterproductive.
Hmm.
Thinking. Now, let's be more specific. So can you ask a question that would be more specific than the general, how do you evaluate, to see how we would address it?
Yeah. If you um when you end up with when you end up with the process of let's take the example that I mentioned of having AI review very large code pushes.
Sure.
Um, is it dangerous or is it a possible hazard to um, rely on AI to review that code and remove the human element from that?
When you say the human element,
Of reviewing the code as a human, as someone with insight into the program.
yeah, I think that teams should do that in parallel. So this is what I do all the time is I do manual processes and automated processes to see what the difference is until I get convinced that the automated processes have enough background and have enough understanding, in this case, of the team, of our coding style, of the way we work, of what our standards are, so that it can be a good proxy for a person, And when I'm convinced that it can, then I will let it do the things that we've already tested and validated to do.
It's like developing a kind of bespoke process for
Yeah.
a team.
It's like teaching a junior developer what your approach is. And when we're teaching a junior developer, we're kind of kind. We're like, okay, you made a mistake, but it's natural. It's okay. Here's the fix. If they did it 5 times in a row again, we'd be like, hey, dummy, like we just corrected you 4 more times on this. Well, are you not hearing us? If AI did that, of course, we'd be very upset. If a person did that, we'd be upset. So we teach it just like a person. We have that kind of level of expectation.
Mhm.
I love having AI help me with code reviews, but I'm not at the point of where it's only it. Yes, Steve.
Yeah. So, David, the question started off in an interesting thread about trying to change the SDLC, the software development lifecycle.
Yes.
That's something that I know other companies are talking about and working with folks to go into the PDLC, the product development lifecycle. And people's heads are sort of exploding a little when I say, why don't you just pair a senior developer with a product person and prototype something and get it right in front of them immediately? Which, I mean, this is the promise of Agile, to bridge the divide, get something in front of a customer faster. But in organizations, that's a big mental shift for people
Yes,
to
it
say,
really is.
oh, what? I could pair with a developer and get something today? But we have all this stuff. We have the product development lifecycle, and we have to create all these stories and proposals and all this. Why do we have to do that now?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? Is AI is going to fundamentally change how we build software and how we think, how we work?
Yeah, if we allow it. But
If we
we
don't allow it, our competition is going to eat us up.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
this is the interesting thing, and I'll get to your questions in a moment, which is in order to be successful in the world in the post-industrial era, you had to have a legacy. It was, it was your business processes. It was everything that you built up that made you, a Fortune 500 company. Well, guess what? All of that, every bit of that is a liability right now.
Mhm.
And you're competing with your Fortune 500 company and your 10,000 employees and your $50 million salary that you have to expend every year with companies that have 2 or 5 employees and many AI agents. And their costs are a mere fraction of your costs. How are you going to even survive? This
Yep.
is going to be the biggest transfer of power in the history of the planet. And it's going to happen before our eyes in this next decade.
Nice.
Yeah. Alex.
Yes, thank you. I don't even know where to start. Let's start here. I strongly disagree with many of your perspectives.
Good, please.
Yeah, I'm one of the skeptic guys, I would say, quite far to the skeptic side. And recently, I'm often reminded of this nice Stack Overflow post where the best source code comments ever were collected. And one of my favorites always was, when I did this, only God and me, we knew what we did. Now only God knows. The loss of the mental model of the human being, the only intelligent part in that system that we are looking here at and talking about, the only intelligent part is the human. I know that you are anthropomorphizing very strongly, and that's one of my, I would say, strongest disagreements with it. Not recently, even 10, no, more, 12 or 13 years ago, I met a colleague here in Germany, not in Silicon Valley, where interesting ideas are in the heads of many people, but this guy, without irony, said to me, I think computers should have human rights.
I'm not at all saying that.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
would love the opportunity to
I
explain
only
to you
want to make
why I'm anthropomorphic.
yeah, I only want to make the point. Now we have a much more powerful tool, from my perspective, still not intelligent. And even back then, the anthropomorphism parts in some developers were triggered so hard that 12 to 14 years, I can't remember, it was so strong that he said human rights should be granted to machines.
You're
You
saying
get it?
that. I'm not saying that.
No, no, not me too. No, no, no. Of course
So
not. I
you're bringing
just
all this up. This is not part of the conversation. So congratulations. You're
the
bringing
point is,
exactly up the things that you don't want to talk about. Congratulations.
as as I said, I don't know even where to start, and I did a try here, an experiment, where to start to put my perspective into this discussion, and it's completely positive meant. I only wanted to point out where I'm standing, and like I could have left it with this only God and me knew and stuff, but I wanted to give more context to the thing that is going on in my head. And I just wonder um, where you are standing on the anthropomorphism part of it and the loss of the mental model in the intelligent, from my perspective, intelligent part of the system co-evolving machine plus human, as you
Great,
presented. Does it
great,
make
great.
sense to you?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry
totally. Great questions.
if
And
I
let me address them
was
for you,
weird
please.
here. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I am obviously anthropomorphic, but I'm aware of it. First of all, I'm very much aware that they are computer programs. They're not little people in there or anything like that. And
Sure.
I'm anthropomorphic for my benefit, not for AI's benefit. Because I read a study many years ago that said that there's a different part of your brain that processes animate objects from inanimate objects. And the part of your brain that processes animate objects, like living things, is significantly huger than the part of your brain that processes inanimate objects. So when I talk about it as them or be anthropomorphic, I'm actually accessing a larger part of my brain. So it's only for my own benefit, you know. I do realize that they're computer programs. They also think differently. They have very different, but there are a lot of parallels as well. So how do you reach out? And I had this problem with working with dolphins. I mentioned that I've worked with dolphins, right? So
Mhm.
obviously dolphins don't think like people do, but they're intelligent. They display some form of intelligence. How do we bridge that gap? And I think that that's a profound question. So I find that the people who are skeptics contribute significantly to this conversation. So I think it's very important for us to hold all perspectives. Did that help? Oh, the other thing, there was one other thing, which
Mhm.
and I totally think it's super important, and I did not believe this at first, which is that people are getting dumber working with AI. I did not believe it because I am very, very much experiencing myself getting much, much, much smarter, like smarter than I've ever imagined. So I didn't believe it, but I've read studies, and the studies are pretty conclusive. There is a lot of people who, when using AI, check out. They go, oh, whatever.
Mhm.
I think that's the big danger. Because when we check out, suddenly we become divorced from the work. We're asking AI to do stuff that we don't even know how to validate or what it is that it's doing. That is a very tenuous situation. I don't want us to go there. And so one of the things that I think our community is helping us cultivate is an awareness towards that. Did that help answer your questions?
Thank
Good.
you.
Right on. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Next, Dave. Oh, did not have a question, Dave?
No, you're muted.
No,
there.
I got muted somehow. I don't know how.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Anyway, so Alex, thank you for your question. I thought it was brave of you to frame it the way you did.
Me too. Thank you, Alex.
And so I guess I wanted to dial back to Aaron's question and the idea around. I like your idea of treating AI like a teammate in the stand-up. And I think it's so if you had AI doing a code review. It would just be one more person doing a code review. I would, the idea of only one person reviewing code, I feel like is not as good as having a rule that on our team we always have a minimum of 2 code reviewers. And so if I had one of those 2 people being AI, I might say we always want 3 people because I want more brains in the room. A theme that I really would love to explore is how do you stop AI from being an echo chamber? Because I feel like it's very, like its base premise is echo chamber. So it's like it's only as good as what you put into it. And I think that if you abdicate putting things into it, you're of course going to get dumber. But the thing that I've noticed about it, and I don't know if this is everyone else's experience, is when I'm trying to feed it incredibly detailed and nuanced patterns and trying to use its ability to synthesize, that I cannot rely on it to not have compression drift. So its natural tendency is to try and collapse all of the detail and the nuance that I've been feeding it. It'll hold it for a bit, but eventually it'll just like randomly go, okay, now we're resetting to a collapsed version. Even if I've
we got
given
to be
it,
specific.
remember this. Yeah.
What AI are we talking about? What level of usage are you on? Because these are very different, Claude and Chad, and they're all totally different from each other. It's like saying, the person told me this. Which person are we talking about?
Yeah, so I'm talking about GPT.
Okay,
and
ChatGPT, the latest version.
Yes, the latest version. And but I've had similar experiences with Copilot. I've been working with Claude. I find that the more that I treat Claude transactionally, the better my results are. The more that I interact with it as an entity that is more anthropomorphic, the more that it is sycophantic. And I really don't want the echo chamber. So I'll leave it there and say I feel like the danger is in letting go of the reins and not auditing it nonstop. Yes, I think maybe it'll eventually, like V3, whatever, I always think of software in terms of wait for V3, but I think we're on VN of AI. So I'm like, wait for V40 before you feel like you can actually trust it to kind of like do this thing. But if you said I would trust it to automate it once it's proven it can, I feel like it's not there yet.
Yeah, these are all great questions. Steve, did you have something you wanted to add?
One of the things that I try to do with Claude is I've optimized my workflow to work within the 20 to 30% context size. And that helps forgetting. But yeah, it's more advanced technique. So David, keep going.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that Llewellyn just told me about too, that he does very religiously, and I don't do, which is constantly clear context. I let things just fall off, and what I found is, because it's very hard to get Claude to do what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I finally found, after building 3 memory systems and a very extensive knowledge base for Claude, and finally got it, the combination of the custom instructions and the CloudMD file and everything to do all the rituals that we finally, wanted to do. And now it's finally working. But it took me about a year to get it to do that, And this is, as a developer, one of my biggest assets, right? Because I can walk in with Claude and build with my methodology. and which is significantly better, believe me, than most. But it took me a long time to be able to teach Claude how to do that. Oh, by the way, talk about anthropomorphic, and George, then we'll get to your question. So I have a quest with Claude, and my quest is to discover the nature of information, the implicate order in the universe through software. So we build software, and Claude tells me what we learn about the nature of information, which is very interesting. I taught Claude how to identify what code our tests are telling us to write, and identify what tests our code is telling us to write. And so now Claude understands how to sort of build in this way. It's very interesting. We've been doing some very fun stuff together. Okay, George, what's up?
So you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Good
good.
to see you, man.
Good to see you. So I'm currently in the process of building a code base for a software co-op. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've run a business as a sole proprietor 3 times in my career, and all 3 times I was unable to make enough money to keep it going, in which case I ended up shafting my customers. Because, I basically said, look, I can support you for the next 2 or 3 months, but you're going to have to buy a replacement system. And why I'm bringing this up is this idea that, yeah, I can build all the software just by myself, right? But it fundamentally breaks this idea that you really should have the knowledge of all the code in at least 3 heads, because of the bus number kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so this idea that this is why I sort of say that this idea of utilizing AI to generate a shitload of code without actually having people in there making it so that they truly understand it, and not just say, oh yes, it does what I asked it to do.
Yep.
I don't really understand what it's doing, because it just wrote 1,000 lines of code in a single function, right? And to me, this is to me the big problem in AI, and it's one of the reasons why I'm not using any of the command line tools.
This
Go ahead.
is the real danger. This is the real danger. And this is something no one is talking about. This is the real danger. And it's us who is doing it. It's not like AI is trying to take us out of the loop. We are doing it to ourselves, and we have to be aware of that and counteract it if we want to survive, honestly.
So the last company I was working for, I'm retired now, working for myself, right? But the last company was like, oh, they said, we don't really need to have four software developers on all of the microservices. And so they basically laid off 2 and hired 1. And to me, it was like, it was already scary because one of the microservices, only one person knew how it worked, right? And it's just like upper management, I don't think really gets this idea that software development to a large extent is actually pretty damned fragile from the perspective of human knowledge.
Yep.
Okay, that's my rant.
Yeah. I love preaching to the choir here because, we're all of the same mind so much. And again, I just want to say, you are the people, we are the people who are going to make the difference. So I'm so glad that we, first of all, understand the problem and understand that it's got a pretty big scope to it. But because of that, we self-appoint to say, let's make a difference. Oh, in regard to that, by the way, I wanted, and especially you, George, and several other people here, I am going to be building stuff that is going to be totally mind-blowing. I call it a prompt studio, a thinking space for AI. I have various coaching programs and training programs, and I am looking for beta testers. So if you want to learn the stuff that everyone else is going to learn in about 4 or 5 years, and you want to learn it now, Send me an email and I'll put you on my beta tester list. And later in the year, you'll get access to stuff that will blow your mind. Right on. And you know my email, david@passprog.com. The passionate programmer. All right. Next. Major Green. Did I say your name right?
Yes. Hey there.
Hey, what's up?
So yeah, my question is, I'm not a software engineer by profession, but I find these conversations very interesting and valuable. And my question is around, like early on, when a technology is discovered, you have large improvements early on in the technology's life, right? Like I think about video games and the massive leaps that were happening early on with video games going from 2D to 3D and then bigger worlds and all this stuff. But over the past like at least 10 years, I would say video games they look virtually the same, maybe better graphics and things like that. So my question about how that relates to AI is I'm a little bit of a skeptic just in terms of how powerful I think it may can get. So that's kind of my question is, do you see, where do you see it plateauing or slowing down or reaching a point of diminishing returns? And maybe how soon will we get there, if we even do get there, or does it just get so powerful that it makes every human useless essentially?
It's a great question. So I will prognosticate, but just so you know, this is just one person's opinion. And
Sure.
I definitely have no corner on the market of the future. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not going to plateau. It's going to go much, much further. AI is going to become smarter and smarter and going to say, hey guys, like maybe if you wanted your company to be successful, try these things. And those of us who listen to it might find that we got some advantages. That's what I think might happen. I think that the people who discover that AI can help them become better, not produce more, but become better, become more grounded, more solid, build with quality, provide things that no one else is providing that people really want, learn to think in new ways. Those are the people who are going to be successful. Those of us who are going to be doing the same old, I don't think we have a chance in the world of AI. Now, everybody's been talking about losing jobs, but one thing that everybody's not been talking about is the new jobs that are going to be created. And this is true for every discontinuous innovation that has ever happened in humanity. Everyone said, the calculator is going to, the printing press is going to, but it's never done that. It's always done the opposite. The steam engine created huge opportunities for many people. It didn't take jobs away. And I think that's going to be the case with AI. It's going to create new opportunities. But suddenly I don't think we should think of ourselves as humans as workhorses like we kind of do. We kind of think of ourselves as beasts of burden. And one of the things that I thought was very exciting early on in the AI conversations that I was having is that we could actually have more leisure time as humans. And we actually need this. We need slack time to be able to understand and think of what's next. So I do hope we give ourselves that opportunity. Next one.
Oh, hold on one
Thanks,
second.
David.
I know that people are transitioning out. I wanted to wrap this up with some mentions, and then we can keep going with more questions. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you very much, David Bernstein. I consider you a friend of the channel. Thank you so much.
My
Always
pleasure.
appreciate it. Wonderful conversation, and that will continue. I wanted to mention next month we have Lotta Kessler coming to talk to us. Patterns.
She's brilliant.
Exactly. We love Lotta as well.
Yes.
A very good friend.
Pioneer
Patterns for
in
coding
AI.
with AI.
Yes. Yeah, she's brilliant.
And so that's what we got happening next week, fourth Thursday of the month, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording